Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa.
And I'm SteF.
And together we are
PD Connect with Maureen, who will be joining us later, aka Mo. She'll be joining us at the end of this.
Yeah.
You're at our speaker series.
Yep.
We're PD Connect. We teach exercise and education for people with Parkinson's. And we're a nonprofit in the San Francisco Bay Area.
And wherever.
And we like to say virtually wherever you are.
Oh, yeah. Is that what we say?
Yeah, most of the time. But I mean, anyway, you're here. So thanks for being here.
Yeah.
This is our recap on the World Parkinson's Congress.
It is.
2026 in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah. I'm wearing my shirt. That's what the logo
I also brought my volunteer shirt because after a few days of having to wear this, you want to bring it wherever you go because you don't want to forget.
We did bring 3 of them. And we also have this, the official final program, all 166 pages of it.
And our final program for the actual volunteers. By the way, we volunteered at the World Parkinson's Congress. And we had a bunch of trainings leading up to that, which was really cool. We met a lot of people online and then got to meet them in person.
I would like to introduce moi. My name is Dr. Lisa Uy. I am a Parkinson's physical therapist. I am the founder and CEO of PD Connect.
That's right. I was going to tell you more about the process, but I'm SteF Farina, and I am the co-founder of PD Connect and a master certified trainer, and I work with people with Parkinson's on the outside as well.
And who else is coming is Maureen Rollwing, who is also a neuroclinical specialist, physical therapist who works with Parkinson's as well.
Yes.
So she'll be joining us in a sec. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and share our
video.
You want to this?
Yeah, we're going to start out with a little video to give you a little,
this one?
just a little glance about what we did. So this video is about 6 minutes long. This is so that we could try to paint a picture for you and essentially bring you to where we were. I will say that when we went, there is this feeling of, Lisa and I have been to tons of symposiums and conferences. The WPC is unlike any other. You walk in and it's like a warm hug. The energy is magnetic. The energy is infectious and all of the great, wonderful things. Anyway, did you want to start with this then?
No, I just wanted to show them this one part. What is unusual about this particular event is that it is not just clinician, it's researchers, it's people with Parkinson's, their care partners, and all kinds of other people. So I'm going to go ahead and share.
What you saw there was that there was a lot of people. Approximately 3,900 delegates came. It was amazing. Okay, here's our video. Welcome. A stream of people walked through. We got to high-five them and welcome them to the World Parkinson Congress. We're talking 63 countries represented.
We're doing it. All right.
Woo!
April.
Lots of cheering. Volunteer training. We ended up working over 30 hours. Make some new friends.
Thank you, thank you,
Okay,
thank
good.
you. Thank you.
Woo! 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 Oh, bye! Bye! Bye, brother!
All right. We just wanted to give you a sense of what it felt like to be there. We wish we could have brought all of you, and you might have recognized so many of the previous guest speakers that we've had in a lot of the photos that we have. Now we're going to share a slideshow about some of the information that we learned at the WPC.
Yeah, for those of you, there were a lot of some of the you probably all thought, oh, those are just some random photos. They're just taking pictures of random people. Guys, those were some of the biggest and brightest minds and movers and shakers in the Parkinson's world. It was unbelievable how close we got to be to them, how we got to talk to them, and share so much with them. Plus, how many of them were actually already guest speakers with us. So let's get started here.
Or continue on.
And continue on, really. So Parkinson's happens to the best people. That's like my favorite quote of this whole thing because it is true. The people that we met were just so amazing. And whether you were someone living with Parkinson's or a care person or a clinician, all of us were just so happy to be here. Anyway, here we go, straight into the lecture portion. So some of the takeaway points. This is not in any particular order of importance. It's just sort of how things played out. One of the first talks I went to was about digital technology. And they're looking at, wearing sensors and different devices to monitor symptoms. And it is useful for tracking what is meaningful change. Meaning, just because you get a device doesn't mean it's actually going to help you. But what it can do in a broader sense is track meaningful change. So if you're wearing like a Apple Watch and you're checking how many steps you're taking, that's great technology. But are you getting, more steps per day? REM sleep behavior disorder. One of the things that they had was a sensor that you wear on your shoe. And what they found was, people that have REM sleep behavior disorder have a higher gait variability in the later part of the day. So if you know you have those acting out types of dreams, maybe be mindful that you're going to have more of a chance of having different types of gait pattern and potentially more risk of falls later in the day. There was a sensor called the Atom, and it was something that you wear on your throat and on your wrist, and it helps detect your breathing and swallowing. And then there was a defog device, which was supposed to help with freezing of gait. Fog means freezing of gait. But although it did not reduce freezing of gait, it did help with better cueing. So earlier today in class, I was talking about how it's so important to have cueing and having your hands out to put bring your knees up to your hands. If you can't pick up your feet, give your body a cue. Your body responds to cues.
So essentially, digital technology is a really great way to personalize your care.
Well, it's not a fix-it necessarily, but it is a good way to track how things are happening in your body. Exactly. And ideally meaningful change, meaning is there a difference? Yeah. All right, so next, healthy lifestyles. One of the topics was about behavioral change. And dopamine is involved in decision making. So dopamine is involved with apathy and anxiety and depression. So some of you probably already knew that. And so they talked about how do we get people to change? Well, we don't just tell you what to do. They call it now social engineering. And what that means is they want you to have small wins compounded over time. There's this idea of stacking. So if you did one thing today, can you do that same thing tomorrow and maybe one more thing on top of that? So if you were able to join us for class today, could you then maybe join us for class tomorrow as well? So that's this idea of small wins. The environment. Behavior depends on your environment. How long does it take you to get to a class? How long does it take you? How far is it to exercise to your own gym? And something like a group class is actually a great environment and more enticing in a way than just going to the gym, because there's this draw that pulls you in. Motivation. You've talked about motivation before,
Yep.
right?
Yes,
If
yes,
you're
yes.
lacking in motivation, make it easier for yourself. Get those clothes ready.
Get
Put
ready.
those shoes by the door. Set your goal. And then afterwards, reflect on it. How do you feel after the class? Maybe you don't feel so motivated to go to the class, but once you're through it, how do you feel afterwards? Then there was this tiny strategy. Sometimes it feels daunting to go into an exercise program or something like this. So what do? We can, or even healthy eating, any strategy.
Anything, yep.
Tiny strategy. And habit stacking. Again, if you're going to try to cut out sugar or something like that, how else can you do that? Could you do cutting out sugar on one day and then the next? Or maybe instead of sugar, can I just substitute it with like fruit instead?
Or if you're comparing that to exercise, can you do a 2-minute cardio snack? And then the next day, can you do 3 minutes? And so on and
yes.
so forth.
And to make it not overwhelming, it's called tiny strategy, because you want to do one small thing, try to do it again, and make it less than 2 minutes, because you're more likely to do it if it's just that less than 2 minutes. And then celebrate. Hey, high five.
We did it.
We did it. All right. So exercise and education, like PD Connect classes. When you exercise and there is also a component of education, it helps people believe they can do more exercise. When you teach them about how exercise helps them, they can do more exercise, which means they actually do more exercise.
I love
Sorry.
that.
They believe that they can do more exercise, and so they actually do.
Which
more.
means that they can, if they believe.
Correct.
Yes, I got you.
Next, okay. Again, no particular order here. Diet and nutrition. Now, folks, we are taking these slides are all from lectures that we attended and from speakers that we went to meet and greet and talk about. So this is what we took away from the whole conference. Anyways, Mediterranean diet is still on top of the list there. If you're not already aware about the Mediterranean diet, go check it out. The newest, greatest thing? Wow, Mediterranean diet plus caffeine. We've already known since like early 2000s that caffeine was neuroprotective or somehow helpful for Parkinson's. Now they know up to 3 cups is that ceiling. So 1 or 2 cups, great. Go for it. Caffeine means you can do your green tea or your matcha or your coffee, or I don't know, is yerba mate, was that one of those things?
Yeah, I mean, you want to consider the amount of sugar that is in your caffeine as well, though.
Black coffee.
Yeah. So
We do have some stories to tell about.
not now, no,
Okay.
but we do. Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Okay.
Very tall man asked for coffee.
Okay.
Anyways, habit
Keep going.
stacking, right? So habit stacking means, gosh, every time you get up to do your morning stretch, add a glass of water to that.
Oh,
We
like
love
it.
the water bolus, especially first thing in the morning. If you're not familiar with it, it's 16 ounces of water within a 5-minute window. Chug. For people that have trouble with impulse control or a little bit of OCD, and you tend to eat more and more sugar, keep a bowl of fruit instead of cookies.
Okay.
Okay?
Or ice cream.
Or ice cream. Instead of ice cream, have some yogurt or
We
have
know
some
it's not
fruit.
the same. We know.
Gut health. There was a lot of talk about gut health. And one of the things they know about people with Parkinson's is that you have a lesser amount of short chain fatty acids. And you want to increase your short chain fatty acids so that it can repair the gut barrier and reduce inflammation. There are 2 areas of Parkinson's that they now believe. It is the brain first, which usually you inhale those things either through pollution or some chemicals that you may have inhaled, or gut first. And that would be that you actually ate something and maybe some pesticides or too much mitochondrial breakdown, too much gut barrier breakdown and lots of inflammation in the tummy, and then that travels to your brain via the vagus nerve. That's the idea. Prebiotics, man, I really wanted to hear up-to-date new information about all of these things, folks. If this sounds like we've already heard this, you probably have. Prebiotics, right now, there are only 2 randomized clinical trials looking at prebiotics, and they are promising. That's all we got from that lecture. Probiotics. There are very specific types that could reduce constipation. Which types are they? Not easily available. And it requires about 4 to 12 weeks to take the effect. So
That's a long time. A lot of the time somebody will start something for 1 week and say it really didn't work, and then they stop doing it.
yeah, 4 to
So
12
that's
weeks.
a commitment.
Yeah. It's not like you're going to take the prebiotic and then have a bowel movement in the next day or two. So all of this is still under investigation. We know a lot about probiotics in terms of there's an abundance of a certain type and a deficit of a certain type. Whether or not going to your store and taking probiotics off the counter is actually going to change your microbiome, the jury is out. However, I will tell you that I have already contacted the foremost person in the world on this particular subject, and she has agreed to be on our show. She's in Malaysia, so the time difference is going to be a little tricky.
That's okay.
But anyway, here's this tricky thing, and this is why you don't take things lightly. We don't just go out and buy probiotics, because some gut microbes, whether it's something that you eat from dirt or soil or from whatever, some gut microbes may affect dopamine absorption. Okay? We don't know, they don't know, but they may prevent dopamine absorption. So again, it's not something to toy around with. And then, however, ideally, this is the good news part, someday maybe they will genetically create some E. coli that will continually make dopamine.
Someday. Okay.
They're working on it. Anyways. Okay, next, the gut-brain axis, staying on this. So akinesia is a type of not being able to move, and that kind of happens when in the late stages of Parkinson's, you have trouble with swallowing, which is why we always try to do those voice exercises in the middle of class. We are working on your throat muscles and your swallowing muscles. That prevents aspiration. Yeah, so this gut-brain axis, they were showing pictures 180 minutes. That's 3 hours of after having taken your levodopa, and the pills were still in the pharynx. That's here, folks.
Yikes.
That means something in the throat area was not allowing the pill to actually get to where it was supposed to be. 3 hours later.
Water.
Okay. Going back to that dysphagia and that not being able to swallow, not being able to speak as well. In the Netherlands, where I'm from, they have this thing called Parkinson Net. And they do this thing where they treat dysphagia, which is this difficulty with speech. And guess what?
What?
When you treat it, they have lower aspiration. Aspiration is when you choke on your food or something like that, and then that can get trapped into your and that can get trapped into your lungs, and you can get pneumonia. So really important. Yeah. They are finding that in the Netherlands with their program, if you go to speech therapy and do swallowing exercises, they have lowered aspiration in the Netherlands. That's huge. Okay.
That is huge.
Next, brain first versus body first. So if you have body first type of Parkinson's, which means you have more of those motor symptoms and it's slower and harder for you to move, versus brain first may be, you're having more cognitive things versus motor things. If you have the body first, because it's a body thing, they tend to have more delayed gastric emptying. That means it just your digestive system is slower. And what they showed was they took a little camera and they went down into the tummy, and they saw that those little tablets of carbidopa levodopa were just sitting there on top of the stomach.
Not good.
food contents. However, they did say that it is treatable with Botox.
Okay.
So, more interesting stuff, folks. There are two types of constipation. Number one is the slow transit, which means that you have 1 or 2 bowel movements a week, or
Traffic jam.
traffic jam. Second is the outlet constipation, which is you have trouble getting it out. It's that last little bit of the rectum and having the poops come out there. So
It's a technical term.
it is a technical term. Okay, next we go on to fecal transplants. Fecal transplants means you take somebody that doesn't have Parkinson's and you take their fecal matter and then you transfer it into a person with Parkinson's. And what they have found was even that, folks, we're talking about taking some good bacteria and putting it into the body of somebody that has Parkinson's. And there's 2 ways to do it. You can come from up or you can come from down. But in either case, they had, they were trying to increase those short-chain fatty acids and increase that gut barrier to fix the leaky gut. And right now, the results had very little effect, but it could be that it just needs to be repeated maybe over a course of however many months. So still working on it, but this is what people do. This is what research is about. It is about trying to find the best solution for you and everybody else. Does bowel cleansing, like prepping for a colonoscopy, help? Yes. That was a question.
It's a good question and a good answer.
Remember, folks, all of this is straight from the Parkinson's lectures.
This is our recap.
Yeah. Okay. I very much wanted to go to this lecture about disease-modifying therapies. And it was actually titled Advances in Disease-Modifying Therapies. And what they talked about was, number one, Crexont, which to my surprise, it was like, wow, I already know about Crexont. And some of you already know about Crexont. And it's basically just another variation of carbidopa-levodopa. Some may be on Sinemet, carbidopa-levodopa, Rytary, or now there's Crexont, which is another pill that is either partly immediate release and then partly extended release. Another new advancement, Vyalev. It's a wearable pump. Well, we actually kind of already knew about that one too. Vyalev has been around for a while, and somebody in our group was tried to be one of the first people to actually receive that.
Sitting here.
Yeah.
So next oh shoot, how do I go back? How do you go back like that?
Arrow.
Okay, good.
Cool.
So then Anapago is another type of pump. It goes into the Vyalev is more like a diabetes pump. It's like a little pinprick onto your tummy or other parts of your body, and you wear like this little diabetes fanny pack. And Anapago is another one of those, except it goes a little bit deeper under your skin. Another advance is disease-modifying therapy is adaptive DBS. We're thankful to be in an area where we already knew about adaptive DBS and some of the ways that they're now using deep brain stimulation and having a closed loop system to allow them to change in real time what you are experiencing. Somebody asked, or maybe somebody, I don't know if this was an ask, but more of a tell. Is there going to be a cure in the next 10 years? And no single cure. In fact, that was the main point of that topic, was there probably will be no single cure, but what will happen is some drugs will help with some symptoms, and the goal of each drug or treatment is to either stop, slow, or reverse the progression of the disease. That's what is realistic in the coming decades. There was a section on regenerative therapies. And regenerative therapy is different than stem cell therapy. Regenerative therapies is, and it's also not about stem cells, because right now the big thought is get all the alpha-synuclein out. Get that bad stuff out. And frankly, there was a big debate about this too. There's a whole camp that says alpha-synuclein is not the bad guy, and then there's a whole camp that says, oh, yes, it is. And they just went, nee, 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 nee. No, they didn't do that. But anyways.
It may as well have.
So regenerative therapies means forget the alpha-synuclein. Don't try to get it out, but let's work on getting some new cells in, right? That's cool. Let's figure out what else we can put into the body, into the brain to help make some new cells. And then what they found was some cells are surviving after 18 months on a scan, usually some kind of like a PET scan. But the question is, they saw these things on the scan. There's more light on the scan, meaning, oh yeah, the cells are still there after 18 months. But the question is, are they doing anything? So at this point, they can't tell if they're doing anything. They know that the cells are there and they're surviving, but from a patient perspective, we don't know yet. So they need to do more phase 3s, and there's going to be a sham surgery with that one, because even people now that get a placebo effect, they can still have like an improvement. It's pretty amazing, placebo. All right, next, cognition, resilience, and reserve. I love this because we do talk about resilience and reserve all the time. We talk about building your cognitive reserve. That's why we do all these things in class, to try to force your brain to build cognitive reserve. We want you to build body and muscle reserve, right, to be strong. So there's this very famous nun study where they took like all these like 10,000 nuns and they followed them for decades. And what they found was 1/3 of them had some kind of pathology, meaning they must have had alpha-synuclein, or they must have had some kind of scan that showed, oh yeah, there's something going on in their brain. But they didn't get Parkinson's. Right? And what they found was those people, those nuns that did not get the Parkinson's, were optimistic, educated, and stayed physically active. So that's a great lesson for us, right? Yeah. Even if you have alpha-synuclein, which we already know from our previous speakers, many people have Lewy body in their bodies somewhere and alpha-synuclein in their bodies, but it doesn't mean you have to get PD, and it doesn't mean that you have Parkinson's. You can still remain optimistic and stay physically active. Okay, how much reserve do you have? And that has to do with that brain connectivity, why we challenge you so much in our classes and all these other classes that are out there to really build on that reserve. And it's important, because if you're going to deplete the engine, deplete your tank, start with a really, really, really full tank, and overfill it. Put another one in the back. Okay. And those with more resilience, okay, here's another one. Those with more resilience had less dyskinesia and less postural instability.
More reserve.
More reserve, right? So, okay, next. High cognitive reserve meant you were better able to metabolize the amyloid plaques. That is crazy. And how they figured that one out, I don't know. Listen, folks. What they mean is, if your brain neurons are still firing and you're still able to do the, describe how you can get from your house to the airport and how many turns does it take and what day of the week it is, and you can do your Sudoku puzzles and you can memorize 5 words when somebody asks you, and you can identify more than 11 words in 1 minute. Those are things called cognitive reserve. And for some reason, when you are firing those cells, you are metabolizing amyloid plaques. Amyloid plaques are those proteins that clump, and amyloid is actually more notable for Alzheimer's, identified with Alzheimer's, but it's the same thing, folks. Your brain firing, all the nutrients that are happening when your brain is firing by doing cognitive things, you are somehow metabolizing or breaking up these amyloid plaques.
Breaking it up.
All right, stem cells. I had the great honor of being in a very small, private 12-person roundtable with Roger Barker, the World Parkinson Congress president. He is a researcher from the UK, and I got to listen in, and this is what he said. Stem cells will never, ever cure the disease. I wish I could do it in his accent.
No,
I'm
please don't.
sorry. I hope he's wrong about this, but this is where we're at right now in 2026. The goal is to make stem cells make the dopamine cells more receptive. Okay? The goal is to make dopamine cells, the ones that you have and the ones that they may transplant into you, more receptive. What they're doing right now in the UK is that if you want to have a transplant, it's a 12-hour surgery, and they still need to figure out where in the brain they're going to go, which tracts they're going to go in, and how deep. Okay, this is still all new, folks. If you're talking about stem cells and you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to go get some, it's not that, folks. That's not what they're selling you. Okay. In Japan, because it's different than the US, they've been doing these transplants. In fact, we knew about it in Kyoto, which is where they had the first 8 people have a transplant, a stem cell transplant delivered into specific parts of their brain, and that happened in 2018, and they're still alive. And so for the next 7 years, Japan is allowing you, and allowing, not you, but allowing people to go and have a transplant of stem cells. And it's $350,000 to do that. If, though, they find that over the next 7 years, those stem cell transplants aren't really doing as much as they thought they were going to do, they will shut down that process and shut down that ability. Okay, Blue Rock is an American company, and they are supposedly in a phase 2 going on to a potentially phase 3 trial, I think. And they have 12 patients, and okay. They're finding that for those 12 people in their phase 2, the higher the dose, the better the motor score. But did they have a functional difference? This is the thing, folks. Sometimes when you do a stem cell transplant, they'll take a PET scan, they'll take an image of your brain, and things will light up. And then it's like, ooh, it's working, okay? And then they'll do some kind of a score, and it's like, ooh, my score, it's better. But when you take that score as a number and you say, well, does it actually help me to get from my car to my house, up the stairs, down the stairs with a basket of laundry, and turn from my sink to my kitchen? Those are the things that actually matter. And those are the questions that they're not able to answer yet. Another thing about the FDA in the United States, these trials that are happening about stem cells are built the way the FDA wants them to, not necessarily the way the researchers want them to go.
That's a bummer.
That's kind of a bummer, because it's basically that the FDA is deciding how these trials should be run. And remember, you are transplanting, what they're doing is they're transplanting baby cells. Those baby cells still need to grow, and it can take from 6 to 12 months, even 2 years to grow. And it could take 2 to 3 years for you to be able to see real change in terms of having those stem cells implanted. The British study had not much clinical response, but people were able to lower their meds. So interesting, they got the stem cells, they lowered their meds, they saw changes on the PET scan, but again, not much of a clinical response. And then Roger Barker did say, remember too, if Parkinson's is diagnosed when you've already lost like 80% of your dopamine cells or your cells, so let's say, for example, you only have 5% left, and then they do this transplant, then you get up to 25%, you're still 75% below normal. So sobering news, I think. I was super excited to hear about the stem cells and come back with some good news for you. And I think it's still early stages. We are finding there's a lot of money. In fact, we know that hundreds of millions of dollars are going into this exact science of understanding stem cells. But
I was not at this roundtable discussion, but I did see Roger Barker speaking at a different time. And he did say, you know, if you're spending money here in the US on stem cells, it's kind of a waste of your money. And that was really harsh and hard to hear, because we know a lot of people who want to believe in it. But it's I'm glad finally somebody said it, you know, like $350,000 in Japan, that's expensive. That's a lot. So if it's not super expensive, chances are it's a company taking advantage of you. And that's information that we want to bring to our folks so that they feel educated about these scenarios.
And let's hope he's wrong, right?
Yeah,
Let's hope
let's
all the
hope so.
researchers are wrong and they will come out with something really magnificent soon. All right,
That's the
so
hope, always.
Maureen is not quite here yet, so I'm going to just kind of read through her slides. And she attended this thing on, oopsies, gene therapy, and they were looking at monkeys and looking at ways to remove dyskinesia. And these are monkeys. So a lot of research is happening, and the way it goes, right? They have to start in the lab. They have to start with animals and petri dishes before they can go to human trial. So the summary of the trial is years of levodopa therapy cause a type of voltage-gated calcium channel in the striatum to become overactive. So what she's saying is there's a lot of therapy, a lot of levodopa makes your calcium channels, makes your brain overactive. And so this causes the uncontrollable, what we call dyskinesia. The mechanism is through these calcium channels. And so the study looked at aged male and female macaque, those are monkeys, with induced Parkinsonism. So they make the monkeys take some kind of a poison, in a way, it's MPTP probably, to make them look like they have Parkinsonism. And they established this levodopa-induced dyskinesia, and they were treated with a virus, and it was delivered. This is called gene therapy. So you're looking at trying to turn on your genes through a virus. And so this virus could selectively knock down those hyperactive calcium channels. And the findings were the therapy demonstrated multidimensional efficacy, successfully stabilizing the neural architecture, preserving the therapeutic benefits of the levodopa, and significantly reducing the severity of established dyskinesias without compromising overall motor function. Wow, that's like the best one we've heard so far. It's too bad that they're still in the monkey trial and that this isn't necessarily a one-for-one apples to apples, because this is a Parkinsonism that they induced and not necessarily something that maybe humans experience. So I will continue. I'm actually going to go to the next one and have her go through. So there were some disease-modifying therapies. In fact, I'm going to let her do that one. Oh, wait, okay. Disease-modifying therapies. So PD had some disease-modifying trials. So disease-modifying means that it's actually going to either stop, slow, or reverse the progression, okay? And it's disease-modifying. It's not just addressing the symptoms. It's actually trying to stop, slow, or reverse the progression. And so what's happening is that there are all these trials happening all around the world, and it's very disconnected. So, and it's really hard to, how do you say, recruit people. So disease-modifying trials need to recruit the population most likely to benefit from the drug. The population needs to be representative of who would be eligible to receive the drug once licensed. Measuring whether the intervention works needs to be quicker and provide meaningful benefit. Platform trials will soon be open to recruitment. Platform means that it's not just testing one drug and then another drug and then another drug. in sequential order, but it's like, okay, here are 10 different drugs that we're testing. Let's have you recruit at all this time. And then disease modifying trials in PD are ongoing. We've known that. The 50 years of research continues. Only a few trials in phase 3.
That's disappointing.
Phase 3 is, so phase 1 is looking at, are they safe? Phase 2 is that, are they doing what they say that they're doing? And phase 3 would be like, is it actually effective? Okay, so I will continue since Mo.
Hi, Lisa. I'm here. I'm here.
Hey, you're here. You're here. Okay, Mo, I'm going to go back to your AI.
Okay.
Later.
And I'm going to spotlight you. If I could find you.
Keep going.
Can you see your slides, Mo? Can you unmute?
I can see the slides. You can hear me. You
Okay.
don't need to spotlight me if.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello, everybody. All right. So you already talked about AI, some technology earlier.
No, I didn't do the
Lisa?
AI slide. Go ahead.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. All right. So I think overall what we learned is, I mean, this continues to evolve as new products are being designed. There's a lot there's a lot of new stuff coming out and we just don't know what's going to work, what's not going to work. So they're really in the beginning stages of being able to use AI. They're trying to work on personalizing it a little bit more. They're using what they call an observation to action model to use actual digital measures for daily life movements. Right now, there's a fair amount of barriers to this type of technology. I think one of the biggest barriers he was talking about is just how this kind of data is going to be shared across different spectrums, how it's actually going to be validated in different ways, making sure the things that we're actually measuring are meaningful to people and going to make actual functional changes. And then also just establishing different outputs across a spectrum. So being able to really see, is this useful? Can I actually track it? And is it going to be functional for someone to make changes long term? Lisa, do you want to go back to your slide on the other technology that they talked about?
Yeah, I already did my digital tech stuff.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
What else did you not do?
Yep. We did this, and now we're on here.
Oh, yes, my favorite. Okay, so exercise. Obviously, we all love exercise. So this was our favorite lecture. I walked away from this just feeling really motivated. I think, research moves so slow and it feels sometimes frustrating to see how slow it's moving. But exercise, when they went through this lecture, we heard a 2-hour lecture of different parts of exercise, and it was really motivating because there is just great results. I think it's still the biggest study going on right now is this still the Sparks 3 study. So it's in the clinical phase 3, which is great. That's a last phase. And Dr. Korkos was saying that it's going to be done by 2029 to hopefully solidify all the data that they already have. So back in 2001, so a long time ago, research found that if we force a limb to work, so this was done, I think, post-stroke, they force a limb to work that's been paralyzed, they will have saw results in rehab. Instead of what we used to do is protect that limb, not use it because it's easier not to, so we just adapt to use the other half of our body. But when you force something to work, we're learning that this makes a big difference. So that was back in 2001. I loved hearing about, and this is kind of something that we've already been told before, but I think just the research has shown that with hypoxia, so it's HIF, hypoxia inducible factor, when that is activated, it is like this genetic switch. So it's like a survival switch. So it turns on our genes into survival mode and helps with rehab. Um, so exercise. So how do we get to that survival switch? So what they're seeing is that it's with aerobic exercise. So longer sustained exercise, but at a high intensity level. And Dr. Corco's study is trying to do comparisons between 80% max heart rate and 60% max heart rate. And so that 80% is where you are what we call breathy, like you're having a hard time completing that task. You cannot turn and have a comfortable conversation with your neighbor. Versus 60% is more that casual stroll that your heart rate is up, but you're not getting a bigger workload out of that. And you're not really inducing that hypoxia as much. Still are a little bit, but just not quite as much. So I mean, coming away from that, knowing like there is this protocol out there, right? We had Dr. Corco spoke with PD Connect previously,
Yes,
last year.
there are two YouTube recordings of his work.
So, as a physical therapist, I think, and working with clients with Parkinson's disease, I mean, I walked away from that lecture just thinking like I need to encourage every single one of my clients be getting as close to this protocol as possible. So that is that their protocol is 30 minutes, 4 days a week, at that 80% max, 80 to 85% max heart rate. And sometimes people can't use heart rate as a very good measure because their heart rate is blunted. So instead, you use that feeling of being out of breath. So I mean, from a challenge standpoint, you want to get into some type of aerobic exercise to induce that a level of challenge where you are slightly out of breath. Obviously, you need to be safe and cleared for exercise and from a cardiovascular standpoint to stress your system like that. But there is really great research showing that it slows progression. And it feels like, although research is lagging behind and it's moving so slow, we have this tool that we can use now. And it is exercise. What you guys do every day with our PD Connect classes, getting your heart rate up, feeling out of breath. One other thing, and then I'm done. The other really cool thing, the study that they did, this was using mice, but it shows that there's that neuroprotective level too. So as you are exercising and working at that harder workload, it's not just the benefit of right now, there is a protection factor from a neurological standpoint on our basal ganglia. This is huge. So if we can have that neuroprotection for what they estimated is 5 to 6 years after doing 3 months of high intense exercise, that's humongous. So again, just like an amazing tool we have access to right now, but it requires us working hard and getting out of breath. What else, Lisa?
Yeah, well, and just to comment about that, about the HIF, which is that short burst of hypoxia, that breathlessness that you have. Hypoxia means that there's a little oxygen. And basically, yeah, as Mo was saying, it turns on these genes. And what happens then is the mechanism is that it helps those dopamine cells to branch. It helps them communicate better with each other. And we talk about this a lot in our classes. It's not that you're weak, it's that the transmission signal from your brain to your leg is slow. And that has to do with not enough branching. So every time you work out and you get that breathlessness, you're turning on a gene in your body, in your brain, that then promotes the branching of these dopamine cells so that they can feel like they can communicate more easily, which will then in turn make you feel like you can move easier. For some reason, my slideshow got cut off there. Shoot, that whole page is missing. But I will just read from my notes then that balance training also was really important, 45 minutes a week. So that's just a couple of minutes a day. I don't know, I need to keep that. But, but, and I think the other thing too was you want to train while you're on medication, but also you want to see how does your body respond? Does it need an extra boost of medication either before or after exercise? And then also, even if you're not a huge fan of exercise, you may like an exercise, but you may like the feeling after even better. So pay attention to that. See how you feel after the exercise. And then in terms of research and exercise and why we at PD Connect are so big into wanting to help people right now, right here, is it called boots on the ground, right? Butts on the seats. We're not here to do research, folks. We are here to help you start moving and help you get into that hypoxic state every day so that you can do what Mo said, that neuroprotection. We want to help every one of your cells stay active and healthy because guess what? Jimmy Choi, he started this whole American Ninja Warrior and getting fit in 2010. That's 16 years ago. And the study is not out yet.
That's wild.
Anyways, okay, just to finish up here, let me get, put us back in. What happened to us? These are just some of the many ways that you can sit in a lecture and be completely blown away by stuff like this, right? This had to do with immunity.
You need to push the
Oh,
button.
sorry. And then there's something simple like this, right? We want at least 150 to 300 minutes of moderate intensity aerobic physical activity, or at least 75 to 150 of vigorous, folks. You see how it's 150 to 300 of just moderate versus vigorous. Here's more stuff on the neuroprotection. So what Mo was trying to tell you about how these neurons and these genes turn on and become protective, that's how they figured that out there, that concept on the left there. And then this is about cells, and this is the stage where they're at, looking at cells and stem cells and safe, the results. Safe.
Thanks, Rosa.
Safe, right? And safe and tolerable. So, and then finally, we're almost done here. Here's that tiny strategy, right? The ABC recipe. Do a routine you already know. Then behavior, add a tiny new behavior, and then C, reward to hardwire it.
Hardwired.
After I sit down for meds, I will do 2 minutes of hand exercises. Then I will say, good job.
That's a great job.
Great job. Okay. Here's that disease-modifying slide. This was the advances in disease-modifying therapies. I really wanted to go to this, and here we go, folks. This is the slide. Crexont, Vyalev, Onapigo, and adaptive DBS. Unfortunately, the adaptive DBS in big, bold letters says quality of life scores were no different between adaptive DBS versus probably conventional DBS. And finally, I love this slide because I was walking around and here were two people on a bench. They didn't know each other, but I knew them both because both of them have been guest speakers on our show. The person on the left is Dr. Martina Mancini. She's from OHSU and studies balance. And then we have Karen Raphael on the right, who is a NIH researcher, study and looks at research and has a beautiful talk called Hope or Hype on our web channel, the YouTube site. and she's at NYU, and they didn't know each other, but we knew them. And that was what was so evident within the first like 10 minutes of being, within the first day, really. Everyone knows PD Connect, and PD Connect knows everyone.
I don't know about that, but pretty close to it. I will say that the WPC, or the World Parkinson's Congress, is living proof that social health is important. I mean, people were, you saw in the video how sad people were to leave. In that entire week, we spent so much time with people we knew, people we didn't know, having conversations, and I think it also really reinforced the idea that we've been saying for a very long time: exercise is medicine, but if you can do it with others, it's more fun. And I mean, what a beautiful thing to be a part of. So
Yeah, I mean, social health, uh,
it's up there.
it counts for a lot.
Yes.
And the people from that video, you could see people were crying tears of joy that they could be in an environment where they felt safe, where they felt seen, where they felt cared for. And it's an experience that we hope all of you will have. The next one is in 2029 in Quebec. And then at the end, when people were just sobbing because they were so, felt so
Touched.
blessed and touched
Blessed.
to have been part of this whole experience. So there are some questions in the chat. I'll go ahead and look at those. How does one increase short chain fatty acids? Yes, good question. Diet. Diet is the main thing. That is where you get short chain fatty acids. You could look it up and implement some of those things. A lot of that has to do with, exactly which foods have the best short chain fatty acids. Is there a relationship between the HIF and the symptom of anxiety? Gosh, I wish we knew all the answers to these things. It's a
good
great
question.
question. It's basically that the hypoxia in turns on these genes. What exactly is being turned on? Is it just the dopamine? We know that there's a relationship between dopamine and anxiety or depression and apathy. So it could be. One of the things we didn't talk about was that there was this entire exhibit hall of lots and lots of gadgets and gizmos and new technologies that people are trying, not necessarily through research lines, but more through consumer lines, right? So that is just buyer beware though. But there are new things coming out there all the time. There's red light therapies. There's
The cap
the
thing.
cap thing. There was very minute ultrasound. There's
Things in your shoes.
things in your shoes. The gut brain fiber thing.
All kinds of stuff.
Yep. Yes, there's a comment in the chat here about acromantia being made by pendulum therapies, is supposed to help with short chain fatty acids. And so we do know, again, that probiotics are helpful. We don't know how much they will do, and there's so many. That's the thing.
How do you know which one to take?
Yeah.
Well,
let me see.
amazing. Again, I can't, it was so sad to leave, but also to walk away with just knowing so many more people. And like I said from the beginning, it was like a warm hug. They've spent years, I think they only take 6 months off before they start planning the next WPC, and it shows. They put a lot of time and effort into it. And there were over 150 volunteers. The three of us participated in that, and man, did we work hard, but we also met so many lovely, amazing people that I think we'll never forget. So it was an amazing, amazing environment to be in. So thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you soon.
Yeah, there's one other question. I don't know, Mo, do you want to take this question? For hypoxia, do oxygen restriction masks help? I know that this idea of HIF is something that is not new. It helps with EPOE, which is that drug, or not the drug. It's what they find when they do blood testing on the Tour de France cyclists, and which is why one of the reasons why so many cyclists and athletes train at high altitude, because there is something about turning on these genes. And it's exactly that. It's kind of like, whoa. How did you describe it, Mo? It's like, it's not like I'm dying here, but it's like you've got to work really hard to stay alive or something like that.
Yeah, working, I don't know how I described it specifically, but yeah, I mean, you want to feel breathy. It should be hard. You're breathing heavy, that you want to stop, but you keep going because you know of all these positive changes that are happening because of that workload.
Yeah.
Great, cool. Well,
Amazing thing.
thanks everyone. Tell your friends about PD Connect. Tell your
Tell
doctor,
your friends.
tell your physical therapist and your neurologist. We are here to help you. We brought you what they presented us, and we just want to continue on our course, which is to offer you help right here, right now, for all of you, wherever you are. And we're just so thankful.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you all for joining us, and we'll just keep plugging along, and we hope you keep joining us. Thanks for making PD Connect such a special place to be, and your continued support.
and check out all those guest speakers that we have on our YouTube channel.
Yes.
You will learn so much.
Lots more to come as well. We met a lot of people that are going to be speakers coming up soon.
Lisa harassed only a few of them. So.
Lisa chased most people. Yes, yes, yes. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. Have a great afternoon or evening wherever you are. Maybe
Thank you.
morning, depending on where you're at. All right.
Bye.
Bye.